So, no, we weren't. That was day 3. So day 2, after a good night rest at the Airbnb, we ended up kind of packing up fairly early and hitting the road because we had to get Hank up to Livingston, Montana,
Yes.
to drop him off at the doggy daycare that we had set up. So we ended up hitting the road, driving through Jackson, in through Grand Tetons, had some spectacular views, took our time, and actually stopped and did some stuff, along the way. But knowing that we had somewhat of a timeline to adhere to, we ended up driving through there, driving through Jackson, which I think we both love Jackson in that area. I mean, it's really cool, kind of quaint town with a good vibe, a lot of good spots to eat and whatnot. So we ended up driving through Tetons on our way up to Yellowstone, and then we made the entire pass all the way up the west side of Yellowstone, kind of scoping things out along the way and letting Hank enjoy, the sights and smells. And made our way up and dropped him off in that evening, and then we ended up stopping to get something to eat without having to worry about him in the car before we went to Yellowstone and found a spot to stay within Yellowstone.
Yeah. And we kind of want to give a shout out to the dog boarding place. It was very, very amazing, well kept. It was owned by is it dog trainer?
Yeah, he trains dogs and
Joe's his name. He's a very cool individual. We kind of call him Uncle Joe now because Hank really does love him.
Yeah, he had a blast there. He enjoyed it.
Yeah, and it was out in the open, like really legit pet boarding place.
Yeah, he came back excited and had fun,
happy.
And then came back normal, happy, right?
Yeah. So Grand Teton, for me that was amazing because that's one of the mountains I wanted to see back in February, but we couldn't because there was clouds covering her. And then the next day it was the same thing, so I didn't get to see her, and I was kind of sad and bummed about that. But this time around, I got to see her, and it legit made me cry because it's something I've always wanted to see for the longest time. My mom's probably seen it 3 times and I haven't seen it. And so when I saw it, it was just gorgeous. Like, I don't know how to explain it except it was just breathtaking.
It is an incredible sight, like especially the way it kind of gets revealed to you. And
well, it was unexpected. I didn't know that we were going to see it when we turned that corner. And it just, for me, it kind of like hyped me up for what is to come. Like, holy crap, this is our first one and we're going to see more of this, like, amazingness. Yeah. And so that was very beautiful. But because we were kind of on a time crunch, we kind of just kept on the road.
Took some great shots, along the way along that road, and just really soaked it up and kind of took it in going through that area and on the way, rather than just listening to music or driving along. It was just time spent staring out the windows, just an admiration of everything that was around.
Yeah, so that was really fun. And then we entered Yellowstone, and then, like, Matt said, we went on the east or the west side, kind of sort of pointed out where we wanted to go the next day. So it gave us a chance to kind of scout things on our way up through the west side. Yeah. Look at some areas that we wanted to revisit, while Hank kind of sniffed and barked and, got to enjoy everything, on the way through there. But knowing he really couldn't adventure in there since it's a national park. So we went up to, made our way through there, scouted out a lot of stuff, and then went and continued on northbound to drop him off in Livingston. And so at this point, we didn't know exactly where we were staying, but I think we got really lucky. We found a campsite in Yellowstone. And what had happened was the people that were supposed to be there that night checked out early. So we were lucky enough to get a camping spot, which, down a ways was the river. So you could hear the river running as you're going to sleep. So we had just eaten dinner. We dropped Hank off. We stopped back to drop, just to kind of resituate our stuff and figure out where we were going to stay. We stopped to get some food, got some ribs and some French fries,
and had a drink and just kind of like had Hank on.
Yes.
And she's reading articles that says don't roll into any campsite in Yellowstone after 5 p.m. and expect to find any spots because it's just not going to happen. And so she's like, well, where do you want to stay? Where do you want to stay? I was like, we're going to go into Yellowstone. We'll get checked back in there. We'll end up finding a spot. And she's like, well, no, we're not going to find a spot. And I said, well, I got confidence. I said, intuition saying that we're going to find a spot. We'll go up there. We'll scout it out like what we did. We'll drive through. And one of the spots is called Indian Creek. And I was like, well, they got to have a spot for you. I was like, you're native. You're native. Like, it's good. It sounds like it'll make sense. And I just had a really good feeling about it. So we drove all the way into the park, and I know she was grumbling. Like,
I was stressed.
Like, hey, this better work. This better work. We go in and we go tooling through there. I didn't see this spot that was open because it was a tight spot next to a few other people. But spot number 6 was open. She went in, talked to the people at the campground. Person had checked out the night before, and that was vacant for the night. So we ended up scooping it up and had a spot to stay at Indian Creek, near the creek where you could hear the creek babbling by. Mm-hmm. Though it wasn't as private as our disbursement camping is. We ended up having a good time, and it served what we needed, and we were there in the park ready to roll that next morning.
Yeah.
It did get cold that night, though.
Yeah, let's talk about our night, like our first legit night into tent, bed tent, I don't know what you call it, on an air mattress.
So we had this was a pilot run for us. I wanted to make sure that the Raptor was capable of doing what we wanted it to do, get where we wanted to get, that it was economical, it did everything. And I can tell you that I couldn't think of a better vehicle to take on this trip. Like, it worked out phenomenally, and I was actually impressed with the fuel economy that it got on it. So we, rather than investing in the overland rack and the hardtop case and everything else, like with the memory foam mattress and everything that she wants in it, but everything that I want as far as like looks and capability, this was our pilot run. So we went on Amazon. We ended up getting this bed, tent, and air mattress and air pump combo that is cut out for like the wheel wells, like the humps in the bed. So the thing is actually pretty thick and was really comfortable. It served us well for this trip. So anyway, this thing, we ended up getting it, and I got some ideas that may fix the air mattress portion. But with this, the investment was like $230 on Amazon. And we figured if it worked for us for this and we at least got 2, 3, 4 nights out of it, it would pay for itself. So, and it was just all about the adventure. Really, on the quality of the tent, I think I was impressed with it. I thought it was going to be kind of chintzy, but it's actually very good quality. Mm-hmm. The air mattress worked phenomenally. The first night, it got super cold that night. It got down to like 35, 37 degrees overnight. And then it ended up working well the second night. Third night leaked a little bit of air. Fourth night had leaked a lot of bit of air. But somebody treats an air mattress like a bouncy house. You gotta lay flat. You gotta disperse your weight. Move gently. Boing. So yeah. But
I'm trying to get comfortable.
Get situated. I'm laying in a truck. So we ended up, the tent worked out great. The air mattress did work out great. Like I said, I got some things I think that some guys gave me a pointer on, try to help keep it to seal where it may be leaking from.
Okay.
The fill point.
Yeah. So that night we gathered, like sticks and stuff to reheat our food and what we packed.
Yeah, we had so what we do is we'll go to like an Airbnb, or even before we leave, we'll cook a bunch of food, portion it out, vac seal it. So it's in portions, like 4 lunches, 4 dinners, 4 snacks. And then once we have that all vac sealed and packaged, we'll put that in the cooler, fill it full of ice, and then we've got snacks on deck. It's super easy to reheat them. Throw a couple ice cubes in with your aluminum foil, put your food in there, throw it on the fire for a little bit to kind of steam it and warm it back up, and it's good to go. Yeah.
So the other thing about the tent on the first night was we didn't vent the tent. So what had happened was all the moisture stayed in the tent, and so when we woke up, we, the blanket on top of us was wet. Our sleeping bag was wet. And everything on the
35
tent.
degrees. You could see your breath, and it's like
Yeah.
we're freezing.
Yeah. So that ended up being our coldest night. And so we learned that we need a vent.
Yeah.
And we were in the forest too. So it was more cold, more humid, and there was a lot of, moisture in the air too.
Yeah.
So we had to, how did we dry it out?
We ended up just sit out in the sun and let it air out.
Oh, okay. So yeah, so we did that, and then we got on the road that morning to head on the other side of Yellowstone.
Yeah, kind of make a loop and go around to the east side and check out some of that landscape and some of the attractions and points at that.
On this trip, Yellowstone was, Matt's idea. Like that was his place to adventure, if you will, like his pick. And so one of the places he wanted to go was Old Faithful. Yeah. And so
want to see Old Faithful just because it's iconic. It's the most famous geyser in the world, and just to see how that went, I guess experience it and witness it. But
so much geysers there too. I mean, like almost every turnoff there was some kind of geyser there. There was Roaring Mountain, which is really cool because it was like slanted on a hill, and it kind of looked like the dinosaur days, just smoke coming out.
Yeah, puffing out smoke and spitting stuff out of the side of it.
And then there was one that sounded like a train.
Yeah,
like it was crazy.
Made just kind of an eerie noise, and
I kind of got a little bit anxious because it just sounded like it was going to erupt.
Yeah, like it was just going to burn. Like just going to burst.
Yeah, like a tea kettle.
Yeah.
But that was really cool. But we also, I don't think we realized just how much other stuff was in Yellowstone.
No, the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone was probably our favorite spot there.
Yeah.
That's one of the questions that came up is what was your favorite spot and why? The Grand Canyon of Yellowstone is absolutely gorgeous. You need to see it from both points. We've both seen the Grand Canyon. Grand Canyon itself is absolutely incredible. You guys owe it to yourself to check out that. Everybody's seen pictures, but just like all of this stuff in real life, it is remarkable. Pictures, Janita does great on photography. Her camera takes really good pictures. That's a photographer's worst compliment. It's not the camera, it's the photographer. But these seeing it in person is absolutely incredible. I mean, there was both moments in this trip where we both got choked up just from the sight of everything and just awe of all of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grand Canyon.
And the landscape was just so different from Yellowstone.
It's like tiger stripes almost through the canyon, and then you see the river just roaring through it. I mean, it's all white water just splashing down.
Well, the water even it kind of looked aqua green or something.
Yeah.
Like even from far away when you're looking at it, the water was such a different color.
It's emerald. It's like an emerald waterfall, and white water splashing around. Mist and everything from it.
And what I was telling him, it kind of looked like painted desert plus, a
Yeah.
waterfall from somewhere because it wasn't like a waterfall you see every day because it was, emerald green with, Yellowstone all mixed in one.
Yeah.
It was pretty cool. I enjoyed that
Yeah.
one.
She'll post some photos and some videos of that in
Yeah.
this video.
So we made our round. It kind of looks like a figure eight on a map. If you're looking at a map, it's kind of like a figure eight of Yellowstone. So the first day we did the west side, and then the next day we went on the other side, on the east side, where we discovered Grand Canyon of Yellowstone and then some falls. And at this point, I'm really proud of myself because I can legit read a map now.
Yeah, we didn't. A lot of the places we were at, we didn't have reception, so it wasn't Google Maps. It wasn't any of that. It was Rand McNally, books out, maps out, flyers out,
Yeah.
everything else, just kind of guiding our way through there.
And it was everything and anything I could get my hands on because, you had to read it and okay, this is why people go there. Elevation gain, how long's a trail, how long's a hike. And then there was some trails that had little tiny streets going down them, which is obviously a waterfall. At that point I didn't know, but I was like, oh, okay, this is a symbol of a waterfall. And so I got really good at looking at the maps, kind of timing how far it's going to take and all that good stuff. And what else did we, after Grand Canyon? Okay, so after Grand Canyon of Yellowstone, we went up north because we haven't gone around that direction. And there is an entrance going towards Cody. And we haven't gone that way. And we were trying to look for an off-grid camping site that was towards that way. So we took that road that way, and we found herds of bisons there.
Yeah, we saw some bison throughout Yellowstone. I really wanted to see herds of them, see big quantities of them. Yeah, I didn't know if they even existed in Yellowstone still, but I've heard about it. Mm-hmm. And so on our way out, we were driving and saw some huge herds. There was all kinds of people that had pulled over, and there was actually no parking spot that was still left. No designated parking spot, but there was areas off the road that most people couldn't get to. So
most.
So I had to make it a point to show the capabilities of the truck, and that this ain't no regular F-150. It's a Raptor. So Janita, I'm sure, will post some pictures of our high mark on it, where I didn't take into account that the back bumper was literally 1.5 inches, 2 inches from dragging on the asphalt. I almost had it so far up that I was dragging the back bumper.
Oh no. I didn't realize that either.
Yeah, I would say if you were taking pictures of that, I went back and went, oh shit, yeah, my tailgate, if I had opened it, it would have smacked the asphalt.
Really?
But yeah, we ended up checking out the buffalo, or the bison, went out, got some pictures that were relatively close, and just kind of admired them. And there was a huge one off kind of in the distance that was rooting up. It was cool to see how they dig and root up the plants to kind of get down to the dust where it's a little bit cooler, and then that's where they settle in at. They make a massive spot, that they root up, and
like a big nest or something.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little, and you'll see them different spots in the field, where they had been chilling. And
yeah. So that was pretty cool to see. So we got to see that and put the Raptor to the test.
Yeah. I remember you opening the door and having to push it kind of up, and I was like, door's gonna be heavy.
I had to climb Mount Everest side of the truck because it was that high, and I was like, I'm short. And he's like, watch your step, and I'm like, what? Yeah. And sure enough, it was a long way down, but I managed because. Yeah. And so we took a look at that, and then we went on to find out off-grid camping, and it was way out there, and there was no spots left. So we got back out and headed back up north to the state border. because the next day we had to grab Hank. So we're like, oh, well, we'll just go up higher. That way,
Yeah, we'll
we
kind of
don't
make
have
our
to-
way, kind of close that distance towards where Hank's at and
Yep.
find some spot along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And we made an attempt, went way up, realized there wasn't any spots, made our way back down, kind of regrouped where we had reception, and ended back up in almost the same area where we were at. We just had to turn off of a different road, and ended up on a plateau up above Gardner, Montana, and had the most incredible view of the stars. We were totally out, away from everybody.
Yeah.
We did go, and we were way, way out. You can tell your way out for those of us that live in like the Midwest. You know, you go out in a backcountry road and you find kids drinking, partying. We ended up going by a group that this must be where these kids hang out that are in that like underage bracket. Because we get up there and there's just a whole group of kids and they're just like, oh shit, as we drive by in the Raptor. We just kept on minding our business, went way down, where in the late night you could faintly hear them laughing, but it sounded like they passed out kind of early.
Yeah.
So we ended up setting up tent, having an awesome experience out there. Janita took some nighttime photos. Really only one of them turned out real well, but
Yeah.
it was a cool experience. We got to stand out and admire the stars, and even though the photos didn't show up, it was still a really cool experience to
And it was
see them that
great.
close and that clear.
Yeah,
we
'cause
had
it
a
was a clear
fantastic
night.
sunset too.
Yes, yeah, the sunset was amazing. Everything was just legit, just perfect. Because it was on a ledge where there was no trees.
Yeah.
So it's nothing you can see, see nothing but the mountains and then the
Yeah,
sunset.
you just had an awesome view out, watched the sunset behind the mountains out off in the distance. And
So how we got there was I found this app called Dirt, DYRT, and that shows you a lot of campsite, disbursement site, / off-grid camping stuff.
Right.
And they would show you where you could go, and people kind of post pictures of the off-grid sites too. So that's how I ended up finding a place, and it was great. I really had a blast there.
yeah, because
and
there's
then-
something about camping, and being at a campsite and being near people, but also being camping out in the middle of the woods or out in the middle of a field or on a plateau and being by yourself. I mean, we were protected. We didn't have anything to worry about necessarily. But really just enjoy the experience and see everything that it had to offer.
Yeah.
And then next morning,
Yeah.
packed up.
Yep. Next morning. So next morning.